It was the most profitable venture of his career, $1.4 billion, more than his reported income from all other sources combined. The source, a Memecoin, a digital token bearing his name. At its peak, that token was worth $15 billion, larger than the GDP of over 70 nations. But by the time the dust settled, nearly 1 million retail investors had lost everything. The token had crashed 97%, worse than the dot-com bubble, worse than the 2008 housing crash. So how did one man turn a joke into a billion-dollar payday while the crowd who bought in got wiped out? The answer is not what you expect. It wasn't a hack. It wasn't a rug pull. It was a blueprint, one that had been tested before, and one that is already being copied. Every year, Donald Trump files a financial disclosure, a routine formality, a 927-page document, longer than the average novel. But in 2025, buried inside that mountain of paper, was a number that changed everything, more than his reported income from all other sources combined. You picture a real estate empire, licensing deals, golf courses, but the filing tells a different story. The bulk of that fortune came from one place, crypto. Specifically, $636 million from a firm called CIC Digital LLC, a cryptocurrency affiliate of the Trump Organization. And that's just the part he disclosed. The disclosure is dry, bureaucratic, yet it reveals a transformation. The man who once called Bitcoin a scam now sits at the center of a digital gold rush. He didn't build a blockchain, he didn't launch a revolutionary platform, he minted a Memecoin. And the market went insane, but that peak was a mirage, a flash. Because what goes up that fast can only come down harder. The filing shows the windfall. It doesn't show the aftermath. It doesn't show the nearly million retail buyers who piled in at the top, believing the hype. It doesn't show the 97% crash, worse than the dot-com bubble or the 2008 housing collapse. The document is a receipt, a record of who got paid. But it leaves the biggest question unanswered. Where did this money actually come from? Picture this, January 2025. A new coin appears on the crypto exchanges. It carries a single word, Trump. No white paper, no product, just a name licensed from the most famous man on the planet. The deal is simple. The Trump Organization grants the use of his brand, and in return, a cut of every trade flows back to him. Within hours, the token's value explodes. Retail investors scramble to buy, convinced they're early to the next big thing. They see the president's face on the website, the official seal, the promise of a digital revolution. Trust is the product, and the price reflects it. A staggering peak that dwarfs entire economies. But here's the mechanism. The token's supply is heavily concentrated. A few wallets hold the vast majority. When the price climbs, those insiders can sell, and they do. The licensing deal becomes the most lucrative celebrity token in history, netting its creator a fortune over $500 million from nothing but a name. Yet the coin's price tells a very different story. Subscribe for the untold stories behind billion-dollar markets. You are one of them. You saw the tweet, the official announcement, the president's face, the promise of a new financial dawn. You heard the stories. Early buyers turned millionaires overnight. The token was called Trump, and it felt like patriotism with a profit margin. So you bought. Maybe you sold your savings. Maybe you took out a loan. You weren't alone. The charts went vertical. Every hour, another green candle. The forums buzzed with certainty. This was the people's revolution, the middle finger to the establishment. You believed it, you had to. But the numbers tell a different story. The token supply was engineered from the start. Insiders held the vast majority. Every time you bought, they sold. The peak was a mirage, a liquidity trap dressed in red, white, and blue. You were the exit liquidity. Then the unthinkable happens. The Trump Memecoin didn't just fall, it vaporized. At its peak, the token commanded a market cap larger than the GDP of 70 countries, but that peak lasted only hours. The crash came in waves, first a trickle, then a flood, then a vacuum. You bought at the top, convinced the hype would never end. You watched the green candles turn red. Then the insiders moved. Wallets that had received tokens for free, promotional allocations, team reserves, began dumping. No announcement, no warning, just a cascade of sell orders that triggered stop losses, which triggered liquidations, which triggered panic. The price collapsed. 97% gone. Worse than the dot-com bubble. Worse than 2008. But World Liberty Financial was different. No memes, no viral launch. Just a quiet token sale, months before the market peaked. Trump's second crypto venture didn't scream for attention. It whispered. And in that silence, it moved hundreds of millions of dollars. The pitch was polished, a decentralized finance platform built for the future. Investors bought in. They saw the name, the promise, the same man who just made a fortune from a joke coin. Trust was the product. Therefore, the tokens sold, quietly, steadily, until the market turned. Then the music stopped. The token's value collapsed. Retail holders watched their portfolios evaporate, not from a crash, but from a slow bleed. The platform's liquidity dried up. The promised returns never materialized. And the man who'd collected a fortune from the sale, he was already gone. The question regulators are now asking. The 2025 financial disclosure is a 927-page document, longer than the average novel, more than his reported income from all other sources combined. No apologies, no acknowledgement of the 97% crash that wiped out retail buyers. Instead, the filing shows $636 million from CIC Digital LLC alone, a firm tied to the Trump organization. The same organization that launched the Trump Memecoin. You bought the dream. He cashed the check. But here's the twist. The disclosure doesn't list losses, only gains. The system is built for the seller, not the buyer. World Liberty Financial, the other crypto venture, raised hundreds of millions before the token ever launched. No product, no revenue, just a name. And a president who profited from the hype he helped create. So the question lingers. Not whether Trump broke a law. He didn't, not yet. The bigger question, is this the future of political fundraising? A candidate launches a token, supporters buy in. The price soars, he sells, they hold, and when the music stops, the disclosure shows only the winnings. The losses, those are yours. So how did it happen? How did a sitting president turn a Memecoin into $1 billion payday while nearly 1 million retail investors lost everything? The answer is brutally simple. He didn't build anything, he just sold the dream. The Trump token launched with all the hallmarks of a legitimate venture, a flashy website, promises of a revolutionary financial platform, and the ultimate seal of approval, the name itself. Believers poured in. At its peak, the token was worth $15 billion, larger than the GDP of over 70 countries. But the foundation was sand. Within months, the price collapsed 97%. A crash worse than the dot-com bubble or the 2008 housing crisis. Retail investors who bought at the top watched their savings evaporate, more than his income from all other sources combined. The mechanism was simple. Launch a token, hype it with the president's brand, sell at the peak, and let the market do the rest. The insiders cashed out. The believers held the bag, and the man at the center walked away with a fortune. Here's the lesson that stings. In a system with no rules, the person who writes the narrative always wins. The hype is the product. The token is just the receipt. And the next time you see a celebrity or a politician launch a coin, ask yourself who's really being played. Because the game doesn't end when the price crashes. It just resets for the next round. And that's the unsettling truth. So who's running the next one? The same people who ran the last, just with a different name, a different face, and a different promise. The only thing that changes is the mark. This is the monopoly matrix, where money never sleeps.